I grew up in Athens, Alabama, which is in North Alabama. It's a small farming town, a little college town. Athens College is there. And I give credit to my mother and father for my interest in art and interest in spiritual things and magical things. My mother believed that the color of your clothes could influence your emotional state. She believed that red and orange would make you more alert and happy. And my father believed that by painting our house true green, that would ensure a good harvest. So if you can imagine 6 kids, 3 boys and 3 girls, running around a greenhouse dressed in red and orange, that was my upbringing. So it was a very idyllic life, considering the turmoil of that time. I grew up in the 50s and 60s in Alabama, but we were insulated in a wonderful farming family. My people were makers. My mother made quilts and my grandmother too, and my mother made hominy in big cast iron cauldrons, and they made something called hoghead cheese or souse and cracklings. And my job was to keep the fire burning around the pot. And my father and grandfather, they fashioned farm equipment from scratch. So it was a very active, productive, interesting life growing up. Nature was always important, and I would camp out and things like that. And when I became an adult, those interests stayed with me. And a lot of the work, especially when I came to Lubbock, and it was right after a major dust storm. And I had never seen a dust storm before, and I'd driven from Virginia because I was teaching at Hampton University. And I drove from Hampton to Lubbock, came into a dust storm, and instead of being turned off by that, I was excited by it. I thought, I bet I could do something with that dust, So when I got settled, I started collecting the dust, and I started mixing it with water and other elements to make the tiniest particles float. And I used it as a slip to put on the pots. And when you put it on the pot and then reduce the atmosphere, meaning taking the oxygen out of it, it turns a really shiny, glossy black. So, just always being aware of nature was important. And then I started observing the sandhill crane, and then that became an element in the work. What drives me to experiment on new methods is the goal of trying to make the next piece even more beautiful and more exciting and more interesting than the one that I had just finished. So I love having a space like this space to come out and look at the work and contemplate it and think, what would happen if I did this? Or what would happen if I moved it a different way? And so it's just the motivation of trying to make the next thing even more exciting and more beautiful. I had a dream where I dreamt that I saw a double wall pot, and in the dream I realized that inner wall, from an engineering point of view, would stabilize the form so that I could fire them on tripod feet and on feet of 4, and they wouldn't warp because that inner wall held it together and kept the circular shape. And so at first it was just an engineering concept of being able to make something very large and not warp. But then very quickly, because of my interest in observing the birds, that rim became a sculptural element that I could work off of and make 3-dimensional forms that would curve and have grace and form and movement. And so that's how that all came together. I'm trying to make you into something beautiful. Work with me. Michael Monroe was asked to curate the White House craft collection, and because he knew my work, he included me in that exhibition. And that was a really wonderful thing to happen, because they invited all the artists, and they were artists from all over the United States, and they were from different areas, glass blowing, jewelry, tapestry, wood, metals, all kinds of things. And we all were invited to the White House, and we went for a reception. And we got to meet President Clinton and Mrs. Clinton. And it was great. And then they invited us back after the show was, or the work was shown in the White House. It was then shown at the American Museum of Fine Arts, and then it traveled around the country to different museums. So that was really a great honor. And having that recognition opened up some doors. For example, the Fulbright that I received to go to Vietnam. I taught at the Ho Chi Minh City University of Architecture in 2005. And they asked me to come over to teach drawing techniques from the book that I collaborated with Jimmy Davis, and also to work with the ceramic students using alternative firing techniques from the book that I co-authored with Paul Wanless. So all of those things create opportunities that expand and lead to other opportunities, and they all in some way show up in the work. Sometimes it's very subtle, and sometimes it can be very major, you know. So I've been very fortunate. I've been able to travel to 20 different countries related somehow to my work, either through research or exhibitions or artists in residencies. So it's been really nice, and Texas Tech has been very supportive in giving me faculty development leaves in order to do things like that. All artists want their work to be recognized and appreciated, and so to be able to see that when you're alive a little bit, that's a great feeling. It makes me feel that I'm doing well, and that I have something to say, and that people appreciate it and want to live with the pieces, want to collect it. It's a great feeling, and it's a good feeling teaching and passing that information on to students and watching them get excited the way that I'm excited. So I can't imagine doing anything other than what I'm doing and what I've been doing. It's just a really great feeling.